It's all 7-digit calls. That includes 911 calls and deputies calling into headquarters. Out of 43,500 calls, 333 mentioned marijuana. And that includes cultivation, sales, possession, eradication efforts, all of it. So, are we a county under siege? Are we?
Yeah. Yes.
We are. We may feel like we're a county under siege for some of the criminal commercial elements, and so we figure out how to address that. That's what law enforcement is for. But are we being inundated with crimes?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yes. Absolutely.
We're going to try to keep the comments down from now. We're done now. Each side has had a rebuttal on that. We're all done. We're ready to move on to the next question. I think we did okay with that. Okay. So this question comes, and I will throw it out there. If not B, what would you do to propose a solution to commercial marijuana? That's what we did. Okay, that one we killed. Okay. Let's try this one then. Did we cover, gentlemen, why not give Sheriff Tom Holland's ZIP tie program, a chance to bring in dollars and to work? Explain what that is.
Well,
Okay, the zip tie is a proposal by our sheriff where medical marijuana patients or caregivers, those that have recommendations, would buy, that some tribes tag would go on their plans, thereby we can monitor, and there would be identification, and money would be coming in.
well, again, because the program can only be voluntary, we don't know how much money will come in from the zip tie program. We don't know how effective it will be or if it will be effective at all. And we are at a point where we simply can't wait for another marijuana experiment to see how it turns out. The statistics about crime, as I said in my opening, would be presented and they would be misleading. Many calls are made to the sheriff's office that don't mention marijuana, and yet marijuana is involved. A recent example was the fellow who broke into someone's house and was found in bed with a 5-year-old. They did a search warrant for that person's residence. Turned out that person was a commercial grower and was a gang member from Chicago who had come here to grow marijuana. Talk to any law enforcement officer and you will confirm that many people come here solely to grow marijuana. They are criminals from the day they get here. We're not talking about the mom and pop hippie growers from a different era who had a different ethic. So this is what we need to address. And Measure-B does that. You know, by telling the sheriff and the district attorney and the elected officials, do your job to protect us from the abuses that we're currently suffering from the out-of-control, no limits, commercial marijuana growers who are ruining our county. Right now, they're hesitant to fully enforce the law because they don't know where the public stands because Measure-G was passed by 58% of the vote. That's why we want to defeat it at the ballot box instead of by a lawsuit. We want everyone to know the voters are rejecting this failed policy.
I guess I again want to address that Measure-G brought all these people into the county to grow when the statistics don't bear that out. The evidence is just right here. It's from law enforcement. It's from CAMP. It's from the Campaign Against Marijuana Fancies. Mendocino is 4th. Lake is 1st. Twice the number of plants. And the example that you cited, that is horrific. But that is clearly against the law. And the district attorney and the sheriff, they're armed with the laws that are currently on the books. Anything over 25 is illegal. Transportation is illegal. Distribution is illegal. These are clear, they're mentioned in the text of Measure-G. So the district attorney and the sheriff actually do not have their arms tied, and they are going after the big growers. We would try and help them to do that better, that job better.
And we don't need to motivate them. There's stated law enforcement. They swore that they were going to uphold and defend us from the criminals, and they swore that they're going to enforce the laws. Prop G just specifies, don't go after the people who are less than 25. If it's over 25, believe me, these can get that high. The count, it's easy for them to do. So the commercial growers are not the small fries. It's the people who are hundreds, thousands. Those are the folks the police can be going after. Prop B isn't going to be changing anything about whether they do or they don't. It's already their legal responsibility to do it. They've sworn to do that.
Okay. Rebuttal? You have a minute, if you'd like.
I'll take a shot next time. I've got a letter here from Tony Craver that he wrote to the Anderson Valley Advertiser a few months back. And one of the things he said is that when Measure-G passed, he said it seemed like Norm and I weren't able to do anything for the last 60 days prior to the November 2000 election except campaign against Measure-G on it before it passed. The phone calls came in one after another from local, national, even Japan and Portugal media, and they all heard the same thing. A county measure will not trump state law. It will still be illegal to grow pot, and we will arrest you if you do. And I don't see the value in having Measure-G out there when all it does is serve to confuse. It serves to attract people here only to find out that it doesn't trump state law.
And in fact, the grower of 25 to 100 plants in a residential area is a big grow if you live next door.
I do want to say something and clarify that in a residential neighborhood, for example, in Ukiah or Lawrenceburg, back in Puerto Rico, those are incorporated areas. They are not beholden to the county law. So Measure-B will not affect that. And most of those municipalities, as you know, have enacted their own guidelines, and they don't allow outdoor growing, and they are addressing those concerns.
All right. So I have three questions here. The mailer on Yes on B makes a claim that 25 plants is commercial. And why do you say that 25 is commercial? What is that? I mean, for the Yes on B, the claim is that 25 is commercial. Why? Why would you consider that commercial?
Well, I think there are very few people who can smoke the product of 25 plants. It's generally accepted that a grower with reasonable ability can get a pound of marijuana from one plant. That's, if we were to heat that up in front of us, that would be a pretty sizable quantity. So 25 plants is far in excess of what nearly any patient needs. So what happens to the extra amount beyond what one person can use? It goes into the commercial marijuana market and is sold for street dealer prices, top dollar. So much for the Compassionate Use Act. So again, if it's about medicine, Measure-B, which goes back to the state limits and allows the medical patient to have as much marijuana as their physician recommends, there's no problem. If it's about money, I can see why people would not like Measure-B, because Measure-B is intended to restrain the out-of-control commercial growers. It's amazing to hear that that marijuana is not a problem in Mendocino County. They might seize more plants in another county, but I think all the statistics generally say, the sheriff says, we get 10% at best. So, and yet we still have a horrendous plant count. Therefore, I think it's obviously a problem, and I don't think anyone